Hello. This was recorded before the 18th. I had to go back and edit this to let everyone know that I had made this video before the patch update. So I am sorry about that. There's going to be some topics that I will cover that have already been addressed.
Hello, everyone. It's Elise. I wanted to share my thoughts and some criticisms that I have about the Fate of the Vol and the Druid in particular. I want to start out saying I love GGG and their games. PoE 1 is amazing. PoE 2 is shaping up to be really good as well. And I'm super excited to see what they do with everything in the future. I'm a bit of a tourist when it comes to Path of Exile. I started playing. I can't even say started playing. I touched the game back in Sentinel League. Um, I touched the game back in Sentinel League. I got uh, two lion eyes, opened the skill tree, and quit. Um, I want to say I came back sometime before Trial of the Ancestors. I can't quite remember, but it wasn't terribly long ago. I've played a few seasons. I'm by no means good at the game, and take my criticisms with just a grain of salt, like you should with anything else. But I wanted to address a few things in this patch. I was anticipating Druid, just as everyone else was. I feel like it covers less of a class fantasy that it does in other games have historically. Uh, when you think of the druid as a class, or at least when I think of the druid as a class, I think of someone who's in tune with nature, not just the animals that live inside of it. Druid, as it is in PoE now, is more of just a shapeshifter class. And the entire set of mechanics they've given us so far is just for shapeshifting. I've played with the plant skills, and they only really come online at like level 31 when you get level 9 gems, and you can get thrashing vines up. I would like to see some more skill variety in the future for the druid and their plant nature themed side of the class. It's something I really look forward to. The druid as we have it now, if we put this into D&D terms, as I'm most comfortable with D&D, I've played my fair share of it at this point, would be most related to Circle of the Moon. And for those of you who haven't played D&D, I recommend it. But Circle of the Moon druids are shapeshift focused that use their elevated shapeshift potential to become great ferocious beasts to take down their foes. However, there are many other class fantasies just within D&D that I would like to point out. Now, other games have done druid in their own ways, but I know D&D the most, and so I will use that as my example. Circle of Spores or Circle of the Shepherd are great examples, and Spores in D&D is all about death and decay, revolving around creating poisonous clouds and mushrooms that reclaim the dead and control them to do your bidding. Whereas Shepherd Druids are great summoners that create totems and generate buffs for them and their allies, and can summon powerful creatures to protect them, committing hordes of woodland creatures in combat. You see, Druid is more than just a shapeshifter, as it is depicted in GGG's representation, and I pray that in the future, GGG can look at existing material for the Druid that exists in the games that we love so much, for inspiration in these directions that they can expand for this class. What is interesting to me is the fact that both of these examples I showed both create summons in some way or another, and be it controlling the dead through fungi or controlling hordes of woodland creatures. Yet GGG had stated that they didn't initially want to go the route of summoning for Druid. It's disheartening, but it really blows my mind, as summoning is one of the major parts of what druids have historically been in so many other games. With that said, though, going with what we have in the game now is shapeshift buffs that you can get I feel are a bit imbalanced with each other. The bear gets the best buffs, being that 30% of your armor gets added as, affecting your elemental resistances. And you get 10 armor per character level. It's really good. It's a great buff for the bear that makes it very strong. And meanwhile, you take a look at the wolf, and the wolf gets, movement speed buff while it's not attacking and not sprinting, might I add. It's only when it's just not attacking. Which is good in certain situations, but I feel like it lacks that scaling impact that bear has. And I would want to see some form of level scaling for the both forms, being wolf and wyvern, to make them on the same level as bear. The wyvern's buff being something along the lines of mana regeneration. I honestly haven't played the wyvern yet in my playtesting, so I can't tell you for certain how it feels, but knowing there's no scaling in it, whereas the bear gets very impactful scaling, does feel a bit bad. Now this is more of a complaint than anything, but why is it that Rainstorm can't drench creatures above a certain level? Like, if I have a level 5 Rainstorm, why on earth can it not drench creatures I'm casting it on? Do the creatures just suddenly bring an umbrella to work because my gem level isn't high enough? Frostbomb has a few other skills have the same problem, but I don't understand why GGG wants to force me to level up my skills. I wish for the freedom and creativity that I had in PoE 1, where I could choose to use lower level skill gems to achieve certain builds. I don't want to have to sit there and not only spend 1,000 mana on a grain cloud that I'm not spamming at everywhere, but imagine I'm not using a strength or int based character and I can only spare so many stats into strength and intelligence. Say I'm doing just dexterity, but I also want to be able to drench my foes with this rain cloud. I can't do that because it requires such a high investment in those skills. Because again, they have to be at a certain level in order to even be affected by the skill gem. It does feel pretty bad. And the skill itself even has lightning strikes that are meant to shock the creatures inside of it. But because the drench doesn't affect them at a certain level, neither does the shock, or rarely does it do so. With that out of the way, I want to move on to the league mechanic, as I do have some criticisms. Specifically, needing to do 6 maps in order to interact with the league mechanic one time is way too many. Now, in an interview, they said they didn't want to interrupt your gameplay of blasting maps too much. So they said that you can save up a bit past this point to do so and go do them when you're ready. And I've seen in game that I can save up to like 12 charges or 2 temple runs. But that's still 12 whole maps to do the temple twice. I personally believe that this is just way too long. I feel as if maybe doing 3 maps or 4 maps per one temple run is just fine. 3 may be a bit too much. I'm not a balancing squish. I'm just an ideas and feedback squish. If the feature, however, is too juicy, I could see a reversion back to 6, but this is the league mechanic that's being introduced now. Let us play with it more. Now the Architect. The Architect wiping the whole temple should never be a thing ever. In fact, I don't think it should wipe any more rooms than running the temple once already does. Now, I believe that if it was the case, you could game the system by limiting the available spaces for the Architect room to move to. And for that, I would say let the Architect just replace the room it lands on if it lands on an occupied space. This would be much more acceptable than losing all or even half of your temple. I believe resetting the temple should be reserved for fighting at Ziri and no other way. Now, the paths. The paths that you're given are super limiting, and I feel bad when I'm given paths that are of just no use to me. I feel like I should be able to rotate the paths that are given to me like I would be able to in Tetris. It would feel a lot better and it adds a lot of quality of life to the mechanic. Now, the tier of the rooms are another big problem, as it feels as if low tier rooms are extremely underwhelming in terms of rewards, and getting all of the rooms to tier 3 takes way too much effort when I have to sit there and worry about losing all, half, or even a few of my rooms every time that I run the temple. Now, it wouldn't be that bad if the tier 2 rooms gave at least a better reward than they do now. And the tier 3 rooms obviously giving the best rewards. But as it stands, it feels almost impossible to get and maintain tier 3 rooms. With everything as it is, and how much investment it takes to get tier 3 rooms, and how few times you can react with the temple itself, given that it takes 6 maps to do so, and the inability to rotate paths, the destruction of so much work when you do the architect, it all feels just too much. The mechanic can be amazing and has potential to be a great mechanic that I would love to play for every update in the future, but it needs a lot of work. As right now, it just feels like torture. Anyway, sorry for ranting and the low IQ takes. I am a single-celled organism, and this cell is not a brain cell. Anyway, thank you all for watching. Sub if you like the video, and I'll squish you later. Goodbye!